Welcome to my presentation for educators of gifted students. Today, we will be addressing acceleration of, underachievement of, and motivation for gifted students in our classrooms. We will not only be talking about how these three concepts individually affect gifted students, but also in how the three go hand in hand, one often causing the other in the classroom. Over the past decade, funding in our state and district have been cut, so there are fewer hands on deck and fewer resources to provide gifted and talented programs with what they need to meet student needs. Despite that, today I want to show you that there are ways to continue to address and give our GT students what they need to accelerate their learning, increase their motivation, and curb underachievement. Oftentimes, gifted students lack motivation because educators aren't sure where to push them next. These students have often mastered or will easily master grade level tasks and are then used as additional teachers in the classroom rather than being pushed to meet their potential. This often results in gifted students not showing continued interest in learning. What is motivation? Motivation is defined as the general desire or willingness of someone to do something. Let's think for a second about what motivates us. Some of us are motivated by extrinsic rewards, while others are motivated intrinsically. Every student in your classroom is different, and gifted and talented students are no exception to that. In research completed in Australia about what motivates gifted students to perform, Street writes that extrinsic and intrinsic motivation both play a role, but also tend to lead to different outcomes. Intrinsic motivation is behavior that is driven by internal rewards, while extrinsic motivation is behavior that is driven by external rewards like money, etc. When using extrinsic motivation with gifted students, you see a level of competition evolve. As the academic level of the content increases, you see less risk-taking and more reliance on group members, as no one in this arena wants to lose. Although learning does occur, you experience less out-of-the-box thinking. When using intrinsic motivation with gifted students, you see independence and self-directed learning. Students are willing to take more risks, because there isn't the looming sense of loss that could occur. These students rely on themselves and sometimes the teacher as an expert. This type of learning is more likely to lead to more effective learning and to the development of skills and mastery of tasks. At the conclusion of this Australian study, teachers and students were interviewed. Interestingly, students noted that most class assignments are targeted to the middle of the class of students. In order to be challenged, they needed more independently driven projects requiring intrinsic motivation for completion. Teachers noted that when these students were given choice of tasks, they chose more challenging, complex tasks and strived for mastery. Having taught in a gifted cluster classroom for a decade, these findings have also been true with gifted students in my classroom. Although competition and extrinsic rewards do seem to drive students' completion of tasks, the result is more the act of winning rather than digging deeper into content. By providing choice in the topic, if possible, but especially in product, you will find that students will be more motivated to engage in the work and push themselves to delve deeper. They will want to take more risk, ask more questions, and take more detours along the way when pieces of information strike a particular interest with them. While some competition is healthy, gifted students tend to be more motivated to learn and learn at higher, more complex levels when competition isn't a factor. The study went on to note that the most significant motivational factor for gifted students in an academic setting was personal pleasure and achievement and long-term goal, which further shows the importance of intrinsic motivation. The next topic we will address facing our gifted population is that of underachievement. In relating underachievement to our first topic of motivation, it is easy to see how the two are connected. If the issue of motivation is not addressed and ways implemented to improve student motivation, then inevitably underachievement could ensue. It is often a natural consequence of an unmotivated student. With that, if motivation is appropriately addressed in classrooms, then some of the underachievement issue will correct itself. Underachievement, though, is not solely due to lack of motivation. There are many other factors that play a role in underachievement of gifted individuals. One of those is access to opportunity. I want you to put two children in your mind, both having natural art abilities recognizable at a young age. Child A attends a public school where art classes are a part of the curriculum even at the elementary level. This child's parents make a middle-class income and have some budget to dedicate to their child's love of art. The art teacher recognizes the talent and is often sending home letters and emails to parents about out-of-school opportunities. About once a month, this child is able to attend some type of art class or art exhibition. This child also qualified for gifted art services at the district level, so the gifted art teacher also offers many resources and information for art opportunities throughout the school year. Child B attends a public school where art classes are not part of the curriculum until middle and high school. The child's parents are divorced and the mom struggles to make ends meet working two jobs. The child qualified for gifted art at the district level, but the budget only allows for one art camp experience during the school year. The gifted art teacher often sends home opportunities for outside of school art lessons, etc., but the child's mom just cannot afford it. The child has started watching free art tutorials online in order to try to continue to grow. It is probably quite obvious to you which student will show the most growth with talent. I do realize that other factors play a role, and Child B could still become a famous artist someday if the right opportunity comes along. Based on this, plus what we know about exposure to opportunities over and over, we know that Child A has the best chance at growing rather than Child B. Opportunity plays a starring role in whether a child excels or underachieves in their gifted area. Is linked to funding. We can sidestep the issue of funding, but honestly, opportunity will always be linked to money in some way. Whether that be within the economic level of the family or the school system, the two go hand in hand. As educators, we control neither of those, but we can advocate for funding for our gifted programs as well as fundraise and apply for grants. In addition to motivation and funding, underachievement can occur due to students' behavior, student social-emotional status, and how students view school in general. A recent study indicated that intervention strategies over the last decade intending to curb underachievement in our gifted populations of students have been stagnant or failed. They have found merit in using strategies that are being applied in the special education world. One in particular is the use of functional behavioral analysis. It is the collection of data, observations, and information to develop a clear understanding of the relationships of events and circumstances that trigger and maintain problem behavior. The process of FBA identifies factors that influence behaviors and is based on the principles of effective problem solving. Oftentimes we find that struggling students show some of the same social and emotional characteristics as our gifted population. By using FBA with our gifted population, researchers found out much more than just ways to curb underachievement. In their work, they were able to identify social and emotional issues and refer students to counselors to get them assistance in these areas. They were also able to identify interest areas that had not yet been known and find paths for these students to explore these interest areas academically, which in some cases open doors of opportunities that would have otherwise not been realized. It boils down to creating relationships, one-on-one time, and getting to know our gifted population like our special education teachers know their population. At the end of the day, both are still children in need of guidance. The last topic that we will discuss today affecting our gifted population is acceleration. There are many ways in which educators can view acceleration, but for our purposes today, we will use it in terms of grade skipping as an option for challenging and/or addressing the needs of our gifted academic students. For example, moving from 1st to 3rd grade. In my research on this topic, I found a very interesting article from Gifted Child Quarterly that gathered data on the perceptions and experiences of school counselors on acceleration as a program option for gifted and talented students. The authors were clear in noting that some counselors were not trained in acceleration. They also noted that counselors play a vital role in both the academic side and social-emotional side of acceleration. I think it is imperative to note this. Children are not just numbers in research, but real people with real feelings. What counselors are reporting are real experiences, and we know as educators that real-world application of the best laid plans from paper don't always look the same. The article cited multiple researchers that support acceleration as a successful way of challenging and/or meeting the needs of a certain portion of gifted students. Overwhelmingly, the numbers support acceleration, and if only going by research, acceleration would be recommended for students meeting certain criteria. Based on interviews with counselors, they, though, continue to be hesitant, citing social and emotional development due to experiences they have had with acceleration or based on individual student concerns. In this instance, I feel this is where research collides with counselor concerns, teacher concerns, and let's not forget parent and student concerns. Everyone needs a voice at the table. On this topic, all sides need to complete their own research and bring their findings along with their own feelings to the table. Too often, I feel we look at the numbers when we should give equal time to the feelings. We always need to realize that we are dealing with human beings, and what works for one child doesn't always work for another. We also need time to make sure that all at the table own their decisions. This is not a blame game, but rather a chance to help a child grow in the best environment possible, and we need to recognize and address all the factors that play or will play into that in the future. Today, we have discussed 3 areas that our gifted student population encounters or may encounter at some point. We have identified what these areas are, discussed how they may play out in certain situations, and have also discussed ways to improve these areas in the lives of our gifted students. The most important thing to take away from today is to remember that gifted children are at their core children with exceptional abilities, but children nonetheless. They need our guidance, our support, and our love first. They also deserve to be advocated for and receive equal support services as all of our special populations of students receive.